Indigenous peoples of Mexico are the most recent of California's many immigrant groups who have entered to work in agricultural fields and processing facilities up and down the state. Numbering at least 165,000, indigenous families arrived from remote Mexican villages speaking indigenous languages and subdialects that predate Spanish. Approximately 45% of Central Coastal California's farm worker population is comprised of indigenous Mexican people. Lack of knowledge about the indigenous populations and their differing languages, cultural practices, and geographic origins leads to widespread unawareness of this community's needs. Service providers in some regions may even be unaware of the community's existence. The language barriers and the unique cultural traits of the population make it critical that customized programs be implemented to accommodate the significant differences with other Mexican immigrants and with U.S. cultural practices. In the early 2000s, a conflict of cultures came to light when Triquis, Mixtecos, and other indigenous people from the Mexican state of Oaxaca spurred rapid growth in the South Monterey County city of Greenfield. Established residents became uneasy with overcrowding in apartments and garages used for housing, trash discarded in public areas, and public inebriation. Accusations of crime were attributed to the Mexican indigenous newcomers. Gangs targeted indigenous immigrants for assault and robbery. The police chief and officers tried to dispel myths and create a greater cultural understanding among the residents and the newly arrived. Although the police department received the Civil Rights Award from the International Association of Chiefs of Police, resident mistrust continued for the Mexican indigenous population and the police department itself. In 2016, the 4 cities of South Monterey County received a 2-year grant from the California Board of State Community Corrections to strengthen law enforcement and community relations. One of the grant strategies was to provide Mexican indigenous cultural insights to police officers. The goal was to increase law enforcement's understanding of the cultural values of indigenous farm workers living along the Central Coast, which is home to 46% of all indigenous farm workers in the state. Adam Sanders, an indigenous Mexican culture expert who also has a law enforcement background, provided trainings to officers in South Monterey County law enforcement agencies in early 2018. In these sessions, Mr. Sanders gave a brief history of Triqui, Mixteco, and other indigenous peoples, an overview of the areas in Mexico where they originate, language and subdialect identification, body language and interview behavior, types of crimes indigenous are victims of or perpetrators of, external and internal social pressures that are unique to this group, human trafficking, international control over individuals, and stories from victims and survivors. Participants said they were grateful for the training. A second round of trainings on cultural competency was provided to the 4 city police officers and community members. This more generalized training was led by 2 co-directors of the law enforcement project of the National Coalition Building Institute and the Institute's regional director. NCBI is an international leadership organization that provides training in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The NCBI Law Enforcement Training Program encourages everyone to play a part in leading the way towards constructive change. The NCBI law enforcement training in each of the 4 cities were attended by a total of 80 community members, in addition to police officers. The learning goals included recognizing triggers and obstacles between officers and residents, how to listen to and respect the emotional content in officers and community members' communications, and opportunity to learn from the community members' personal stories of law enforcement interactions. The training content included understanding stereotypes and misinformation, caucusing to learn strategies to be an effective ally to indigenous and other residents, and question and answer exchanges. Meeting participants were interviewed immediately following each workshop session to hear their opinions of the training for evaluation and quality improvement purposes. Some of those comments were, "Thank you for bringing the community and enforcement together. It was great to hear other points of view and have open dialogue between officers and residents. The personal stories helped humanize the police officers. I wish we had more time to have dialogue with the officers. These events help build community, and a workshop dedicated for youth would be very helpful. Listen to this interview with Commander Edmundo Rodriguez of the Greenfield Police Department.
I thought the workshop, didn't know what to expect, came in and you guys facilitated a great program here. I don't know if you know, but we had a lot of middle school age kids here. They were actually here serving their detention time. And, and they were being a little rambunctious at first, but at the end of the program, the kids were engaged. They wanted to participate. They had some very good points to offer and stuff. So that alone, I think, is a testament to the job that you guys did putting this together. So congratulations.
The police departments of Gonzales, Greenfield, King City, and Soledad are very encouraged by the level of participation and community demonstrated by law enforcement personnel and community members in the Indigenous Peoples and NCBI law enforcement trainings. These agencies have made a significant investment in improving relationships with their communities, and a foundation has been laid for further work to increase mutual understanding and respect.